We all know design matters. I happen to think designers matter too. Hey everybody, welcome to Business of Design, episode number 106, 5 Fast Track. Hey everybody, welcome to Business of Design. I'm so glad you're here. This is episode 106, 5 Fast Track. Hey everybody, welcome to Business of Design. I'm so glad you're here. Episode number 106, 5 Fast Track Tactics for your interior design business. Now, it's not easy to say, but fortunately, fairly easy to implement the tactics that Sara Malek Barney shares with us in this episode. It's a miracle. I got it out. Sara is now a full-time designer, but she transitioned away from a career in entertainment, which meant a steady paycheck and endless work opportunities, to work full-time as a designer. I reached out to Sara because her path seemed so swift. I wondered how she managed to get to her 50th project in about 2 years. That's kind of incredible, isn't it? What's the secret sauce? Well, she's going to share her fast track tactics with us, 5 of them. One of the things she mentions that was critical was forming a support group for herself, and she happened to do that when she went to Las Vegas Market. She met up with a group of designers, and to this day, they support one another, which is fantastic. Really, it's critical, isn't it, to our well-being to have that kind of support? Creating those networking groups is the reason we host free Business of Design meetups, so you will all make face-to-face connections. However, not every support group is created equally. For example, I have an amazing group of designers. They are so talented. I've known them for 25 years. We get together every few months. I love them, but they are not my group that I go to when I'm looking for strategic business advice. Oh no. Did I ever tell you guys about the shoe story? Maybe I did, I can't remember. But anyway, one of the people in the support network that I'm talking about is so funny. He ended up doing a project for someone in his building without a contract, without any kind of a retainer. He did all this work for that person, and then lo and behold, the person who is a neighbor didn't pay him. And after trying repeatedly for a year to get payment, he was so frustrated. He saw an opportunity to get a little payback, if not payment. He noticed one night as he went to his neighbor's floor to knock on the door and ask for payment yet again, that the neighbor had some shoes sitting outside his door. He'd seen this before. The neighbor obviously would put his shoes outside his door, a company would pick them up, polish them, shine them, and put them back. And he decided he was so frustrated and fed up, he would take one of the shoes. And so he did. He took one of the shoes, and then he told us all about it, and we were howling. It's hysterical. I would much rather get paid, but that's kind of creative vengeance, that's for sure. I'm not recommending this, by the way. I'm just telling you about my support network. Anyway, fast forward 2 years later, he's got a collection of about 5 different shoes, and the building is trying to catch the shoe thief. So hysterical, right? I mean, when you want to hang around with these people, their days are filled with stuff like this because they don't follow any kind of business protocols. So it's a riot. We have a blast together. But definitely, this is not the group I go to when I want to strategically push my business forward. That's you guys. That's Business of Design. We launched a Facebook community at Business of Design about a year ago, and it was getting quite robust, and people were engaging. It was really fun. And then the members, those people who are actually introducing systems and implementing strategies, reached out to us and said they would really prefer a Facebook group that was members only. That way, they could be sure the advice they got back was consistent with the practices they're developing. It really did make sense, and we can see a difference between the advice that we're seeing in the Facebook page that's open to everyone, which is still lovely, versus the advice we're seeing in the members-only Facebook page. Networking has been important to us from the beginning. When we launched Business of Design in 2004, we actually have a networking group still active from 2005, which is really cool. Every time we host a seminar or a free meetup or put together our elite retreat, we encourage everybody in the room to become part of a social network and to assist each other on the fly. That way you've got some names and faces of local designers who can help you when you're in a bind. To further that goal, we recently launched Business of Design chapter meetings. If you go to our website, there's a tab, BOD chapters. Go ahead and click on that and you'll see if there's a chapter meeting in your neighborhood. I couldn't believe it. I just clicked on it myself. We just launched it. I wasn't sure how many meetings we had when we launched. We have 20. We have 2 in California, 1 in Sacramento, 1 in San Francisco. We have a Denver chapter, a DC chapter. We've got a Boca Raton chapter in Florida. In Idaho, there's a Priest Lake chapter. Nashville, we've got a Nashville chapter. I'm headed to Nashville in September. We've got a Dallas chapter. In Vermont, we have Rutland, we have Washington State, and we have a Madison chapter in Wisconsin. In Canada, we have Calgary, we have Red Deer, we've got Vancouver, and we've got several in Ontario, which is exciting, Ancaster, London, Toronto, and Vaughan. We've got our first Australian chapter, which is in Sydney, and this one is just unbelievable to me. We have a Nigeria chapter. Yes, we have a group of 5 people in Nigeria. When I started this mission, I never dreamed that my isolation was so unnecessary. No matter where you live, there are other designers doing what you do, and we can help and support each other. Our goals at Business of Design are lofty. We definitely want the public to be more aware of what professional designers do, and before we could get there, we needed to make sure there were enough professional designers to carry the message. We are really at that tipping point. In 2020, we will begin a task that we've wanted to do since 2004, and that has to do with public education and outreach. I also want to mention Business of Design chapter meetings are not a profit center for Business of Design. We do not charge a fee for those meetings. We are committed to making the industry stronger, one designer at a time, and we really appreciate your love and your support, and you can support us through paid membership in Business of Design and through carrying the message to those designers who still need help. Thank you so much. Let's do some quick housekeeping, check in with Cheryl, and then I'll tell you about Sara, and she will take it from there. Hey, Cheryl, nice to talk to you.
You too. I'm looking forward to High Point this weekend.
We have a lot of activities happening, including our big 3-hour CEU run projects like a boss course where we're going to focus on steps 1, 2, and 3, which includes contracts and retainers. So that's $295. You do not have to be a Business of Design member to join, but you certainly could be. And basically, I'll answer any question you have about how to launch projects so they end the way they start, powerfully.
Yes, and for anyone looking to implement the 15 steps, this is a really great way to fast track the first 3 steps. You'll be focusing on steps 1, 2, and 3, which takes you right from the initial phone call through to trade day. And for anyone who doesn't know what that is, something to even take before you join us for that, we've recently updated our introductory course on the site, Business of Design's 15-step project management strategy. So if you've been listening to the podcast for a long time and haven't taken that next step, you can get started, register for free at businessofdesign.com. It's a free introductory course that walks you through what those 15 steps are.
Yeah, it's a really good overview for sure. And we're hoping you'll watch that and be compelled to sign up for membership. So give that some thought if you're ready to take your business to the next level.
And another way to do that coming up April 10th is our next group coaching session for our premium members. So if you want to sign up, registration is open. And again, that's going to be Wednesday, April 10th, which is our next group coaching session.
Those group coaching sessions are getting robust, and the conversation has changed so much from real basics to interesting, mature questions for people who are in it to win it. Like, wow, what a difference, right?
Well, one of the things we're really trying to distinguish is that through our online courses, we do have a Q&A section. Members have access to asking you questions as they make their way through the courses. So these group coaching sessions are really our way to answer questions that are not currently included in course topics, and to sort of go beyond that and answer those questions for our members, because it does take us a while to create new courses on each of these subjects, and we've got a long list of ones that are coming up. But to get immediate answers to those questions, this is the way we're doing it.
Sounds great. Thank you, Cheryl.
Take care.
Welcome to the Business of Design podcast with Kimberley Seldon. Business of Design is the coaching community for independent designers like you. We know it takes more than hard work and talent to successfully run a professional design firm. There are proven business strategies that can solve your immediate challenges and transform your life. Don't try to do this alone. Join today and you'll have access to more than 100 video courses, participate in monthly coaching calls, and find unlimited support within our exclusive members-only Facebook group. Unlike traditional coaching, BOD is a fast track to immediate results for independent interior designers, decorators, architects, stagers, and landscapers just like you. Monthly membership is only $79. Annual members save 2 months and have access to Kimberley's contracts. What are you waiting for? We all know design matters. At Business of Design, we think designers matter too.
Let me tell you about Sara Malek Barney, who set out to create a thriving, profitable business for herself. That's a really good goal. Her background is entertainment and events, and I will let her tell you about that. What's key? Sara felt she had no time to waste in launching a profitable design business. She'll share how she managed to do that in a very short time. Spoiler alert. It has nothing to do with creativity and everything to do with business skills. Even though she's only in her 3rd year of business, she is working on her 50th project. That's 50. And when not designing, she says you can find her in Austin drinking rosé, wearing sequins, dancing to boy band music, and trying to solve a New York Times crossword. She's also trying to be a cool mom, and I bet she is. Hey, Sara, how are you this morning?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Okay, so everybody listening, Sara and I are in our pajamas. It's super early. I'm in California, and you're in Texas.
It's earlier for you.
Yeah, that's cool. It's good. We're having coffee. We're having a great conversation. And Sara just tapped into the gold mine that is my existence, which has to do with the fact that 80% of the work we do is business and only 20% is creative. And the crazy thing is, if you're not that great at the creative part, you can learn that part, right?
I mean, I think you could definitely tap into it for sure.
All right. So give us your background in terms of business, and then how did you get into interior design?
Yeah, so I grew up I'm in Austin, Texas. I grew up in Austin, but I always wanted to work in the entertainment industry. That was a big thing for me. I just had dreams of living in LA and having this ritzy life. And so right after college, I moved to LA, and I got my first job out of college was working for Ellen DeGeneres, actually, for her talk show. And while it was great and fun, it was a little too loosey-goosey in terms of schedule. Like we'd have 3 weeks off or 6 months off, and it was just all over the place. And I couldn't pay my bills, and I wanted something a little bit more structured. So I moved over to working at a very large talent agency where I thought I would just get some experience and move on from there. I ended up staying there for almost 5 years, meeting my husband there and becoming a talent agent. And it was sort of around the time that he and I were about to be engaged that I realized, okay, I want a life and I want kids and I want a house and I want normal things. So let's move back to where my family is. And we moved back to Austin in 2009. I was pretty burnt out on work at that point. I'd worked nonstop since the day I graduated. And so I was planning to take a few months off, but it was 2009 when nobody was hiring anybody and there was no jobs available. So the second I stepped off the plane in Austin, I actually was offered a job working for South by Southwest. And I didn't want to take it, but I took it because I had to. And it worked out. I was there for 7 years running all of their sales for entertainment brands at the festival. And it was a great, great time. But this sounds super cliche in terms of getting into design, but it got to be 2016. It was the election year. And it was shortly after the election ended. And I had 2 young girls, and I kind of thought, oh my gosh, I need something bigger than me. I need to do something to show them that I need to take control of my career and what it is I'm doing. I've always sort of had an entrepreneurial spirit, and design was always something I loved and something I just sort of did for friends. So I researched how to go back to school and keep my job and not go broke from student loans or anything like that. And so I went back to school online. It was a 1-year program, and I finished it in 3 months because I was just nose down, let's get this done. And I started taking projects while I was still working full time and not thinking really like it was going to become anything. I thought it was just going to be like this lucrative hobby, I guess. I don't know. And then it got to the point where I was taking on so many projects, I had to quit my job. And that was about 6 months into the business, 5-6 months into the business. And then from there, we've just grown. And now we've just completed, we're about 2.5 years in. We're about to start project number 50. And we have 4 employees, or 4 of us total. And it's just, I don't know, like gangbusters.
That is so exciting. It reminds me a bit of Adam Scoogle, who was on episode number 100, because he was in the corporate world, decided to make the transition to interior design. And once he got earnest about it and started implementing procedures and systems to help him run his business, it just exploded. And it can be really exciting. And you have the advantage, which I think is huge, of having a business background. Like that just cannot be underestimated. But you said previously, before when we were talking, which is so funny, of course you worked in the entertainment industry, but you don't think you're necessarily as creative as some other designers. What do you mean by that?
Well, I always joke that I'm a Gemini, so I'm both creative and super type A. But while I think I have a good eye for design, I wouldn't say I'm not super precious about it, and I don't treat it like a art form per se. I'm not going to work things to death. I'm not going to. I have a creative eye, but I'm not super creative in that way where I'm treating it really, really special. Or at the end of the day, it's a business, and I'm here to make clients happy for sure and create wonderful spaces for them. But at the end of the day, it's also, I got to pay a mortgage, and, I got to pay my employees. And so I have to keep that in mind. And that's always top of mind. And it's funny working with other designers. And I even have a designer on staff who is classically trained, has always been an interior designer. And her business acumen is definitely lacking, in the sense she probably couldn't go out on her own without suffering quite a few failures in the beginning, which is okay if you're young. But for me, I was at a point in my career where I couldn't afford to do that. So it was either it had to work or it didn't.
I guess I can relate. I've never thought clients hire me because I'm the most creative designer in town. I just don't think they do. I think that the work that we do, I think of myself as an applied artist. That's what I want to say. Okay. I'm an applied artist. I'm not an artist. I go to museums and I see what artists do. Like we went yesterday to the Ai Weiwei exhibit, a Chinese artist that's in LA. And, I'm like, wow, who would have thought of making 100,000 or 100 million tiny porcelain sunflower seeds and putting them together in a pile on the floor and calling that a work of art? I'm just not like that. But I can take somebody who's living in a home that's not finished, and I can finish that home beautifully. And I don't overthink it. I don't overwork it, right? But I do know designers who are so creative. The work that they do is magical somehow, and that's not my customer. Right. It's interesting. So it's good. So for everybody listening who says, well, I can't really draw. I don't know if I'm the most creative designer out there. I can't draw
to save my life.
Right. Oh my gosh. In kindergarten, I had this teacher and we had to color a poinsettia, and I had to stay inside and miss recess because I didn't color in the lines. And that was it. That was the last time I thought, I'm an artist. I'm done. It's over. I don't understand that world. Anyway, so it's good to know that it's, hey, we all come
Exactly.
from a different place, right? Like, I really am envious of people who can draw beautifully and all that kind of stuff. So cool. So we met when we were in Austin, and I could tell, I don't remember what the conversation was, but I'm like, that girl knows what, that girl is going to run a mean business. And you came up with about 5 different talking points that I think are all really great podcasts. So let's start with the first one on your list, which is the business plan. Why the heck do I need a business plan if I'm running an interior designer decorating company? That's just crazy talk.
Right, right. Well, you know what's funny is I when I wrote that down, I thought, oh, I need to like look at my own list here to do it myself. I first did a business plan before I started because I just thought I had to. Like, that's what I was always told. Like, when you start a business, you need a business plan. But now going back and looking at it, it's funny to see how my business has evolved into what I thought it was going to be versus now what I know about my area where I do business, but then also my clientele and who has been attracted to me versus not. And now I can make, little changes here and there. I thought, I was going to be a designer for the people. And then I quickly realized, wait a second, I don't want to be that person, So things have changed a little bit for sure, but it's a good sort of touch base to look back at. And even if you're not sticking to it, what are your goals for the next quarter, year, 5 years? And where do you see it? What's the end game for this, right? Like, if I'm going to do client projects until the day I die, I think I might go a little bit crazy. So, like, how are we going to grow the business over time so that it constantly stays interesting? And what are those things and what do they mean?
So when you were trained in business school to do a business plan, you describe the business you want to create, right? And did you get down to nitty gritty? Like, this is how much money I want to make. This is how many days I want to work. Like, what are the things they told you in business school you needed to have in the plan?
So I didn't get that specific, only because I had no idea what I was getting into in terms of financial freedom, if you will. I didn't know that I was going to be doing this full time. I thought it was going to be a hobby, but I did have a certain level of expectation. If I am doing this on my own, here's what I want to make. Here's where I'm comfortable. This is what works for me. But I did get into, ways in which we're different than others in the market, and what delineates us from our quote unquote competition. And then what do we provide that's different maybe than somebody else? Because it is a saturated market. So how do we make ourselves stand above someone else? And what is our approach to that? And so, like I said, I kind of like did it on the fly, not knowing much about the interior design as a business, but I feel like it actually is great in terms of keeping hold of what I want design to be. Even if the actual day-to-day is different than what I wrote down, at least this is what I always wanted it to be, and this is what I'm sticking to.
Well, and I think every 3-4 years, it's going to change, right? It's just going to change because you're going to get better at what you're doing.
Totally.
You're going to figure out who your ideal customer is. Like for me, I couldn't possibly have written a business plan at the beginning that would have carried me to where I am now. And my business plan today is going to look very, very different.
Right. You don't have to hold true to it. It's just sort of the core values that are there.
I think in general, though, and this is a gross generalization, but I think most of us ask for too little. We write a business plan and we say, I just want to make a little money and, make clients happy kind of thing. Yeah. Like, oh, no, ask for more. Come on.
Right.
You deserve more. Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me what differentiates you. What did you finally stumble upon that makes you guys different?
Well, this is going to sound really, I don't know, bougie, I guess. But I always, in my mind, when I pictured interior designers for years, I pictured these like old ladies in Dallas with big hair and like stuffy curtains and like designing women. And I thought, oh, I don't know, that's not me and that's not who I'm going to be. And so I very much came at it from an angle of I want design to be accessible for everyone. And I want, even if you don't have the budget, you should feel like you can have a beautiful space. I don't want to be the Walmart of designers, but I do that's when I go back to saying I'm not precious about it. I think that there are ways you can kind of work with a lot of different budgets. They maybe can't afford me at this point, but at the same time, it's something where I just thought that everyone should be able to have this, and it shouldn't feel stuffy, and it shouldn't feel like you can't sit on it and touch it and live in it day to day. It should feel like you should feel like you live there. And that was a big thing for me. And I'm not going to push something on a client that I just think is beautiful if I think it's also not functional and completely wrong. So that was a big thing for me. And I have 2 little kids. And so working with young families is just something that they've attracted to me, and I've attracted to them. And now I'm used to working with pets and animals and kids and all the things to make it accessible.
So would you say that's part of your business plan now, is young families? Bring me your chaos, I will get you organized kind of thing?
Do you know what's funny is I actually put that in the business plan, that I was going to be working with young families, because I just had a feeling. I think it's just the nature of the area I live in, the people I'm around, my day to day, like my friends and family. There's a lot of young families around me, and I love working with young families. I love it. Like, they're kind of coming into their own. They're figuring out who they are. And they love design, and they're willing to take more risks than I think somebody more set in their ways. And yeah, I've loved working with families.
In a very practical way too, young families get to be older families, and they move into different homes. So you probably have, 3 projects per family in your career ahead of you, right? And then you'll start doing their kids' places. That's where I am.
Or their second homes if we're lucky.
Definitely. Second homes are the most fun. Actually, pretty much every client I know has spent more on the second home than they did on the main home.
Oh, nice.
But because you're in a position where you have that extra cash at that point, right? You mentioned previously that you believe that that's really important to be able to hire out. So did you do that before you took on actual staff?
Yes. I would say this is like the number one thing that I think led to my fast growth. Is, I realized very early on I'm one person and my time is worth money. And if it's not something I at least have like some inkling of an idea how to do and do efficiently, then I'm not going to do it. And that was true for a lot of different things. The biggest thing I did straight out of the gate was hire someone to handle all my SEO. And I did that because I knew the SEO was complicated. And I knew that I wouldn't be visible in my marketplace if I didn't grow it. So I immediately hired that out, and it has paid for itself 10 times over. I still use the same service I'd always used to do it, and they're fantastic. And I highly recommend hiring out. If you are not a pro in what it is that you're doing, hire it out. If you don't know how to lay tile, you're going to hire somebody to lay the tile. So it will save you so much time to focus on what it is you actually are good at and charge for that, than wasting your time, say, learning how to 3D render. It could take you days and days and days to learn how to do, when you can hire that out to somebody for $200,
It's better for clients as well, right? Because they're going to get that person who's an expert, who's fast and efficient at it, and you're going to be able to focus on the things that you're great at.
Right. And yeah, you're able to focus on it, and you're also able to take on more work, quite honestly. So I was able to, before I hired my first employee, I was managing 8 projects on my own. Granted, that was not ideal because it was total chaos. I was working all the time. But at the same time, I was able to take on more business and grow faster because I hired out these other business things that I needed.
I think you can do that for a year. I think it's legitimate to say, like, for a year, I'm going to be building sweat equity. I will be overwhelmed. I will be challenged. I will make mistakes. But somewhere around the second year mark, it should begin to settle down and gel and feel good. And what happened for me was 12 years in, and I'm still at the same point that I was the first year. So that's the point at which you really want to get serious and start drilling down and figuring out, who you are. You must have done, in addition to SEO, talk to me about networking. Are you good at it? Do you like it?
I hate small talk, but I don't mind networking, and I don't mind public speaking. I don't really mind. I'm an extrovert by nature, so I don't mind putting myself out there. I would say locally, I haven't networked nearly as much as I have sort of across the country. I've met a lot of great people going to market, and I now travel with those people to different markets. And it's really fun. And like we have a constant text thread going on, and we're all sort of in the same points in our businesses, so we can bounce things off of each other. Sometimes it doesn't overlap because of our areas, because one's in California, one's in Colorado, one's somewhere, they're kind of all over the place. But it is great in terms of just bouncing ideas off of one another, or even if we need to order from somebody or whatever it may be. I sort of have this brain trust where we can share ideas and share very frank, like, what are we making? Are we making enough money? And, what are we doing here?
How did you meet this group?
Going to market, actually. I went to Las Vegas market about a year and a half ago. It was right after I quit my job. It's almost 2 years now. And I thought I was a big poser. Like, I was there and I was like, oh my God, I just quit my day job. And like, what am I doing? These people have been doing this for years. And I was just part of a group of designers that were going on around a tour. And then I ended up connecting with about 6 or 7 of them. We still have a text thread that goes to this day, where we just, hey, does anybody have an account with whoever? Or, hey, has anybody ever put this cord around over this type of baseboard? I mean, we get really specific a lot of the time, nerd out, but it is so helpful. And now a couple of us, we've been to High Point together. We just got back from Vegas together. So it's been great just sort of touching base with one another. And now I'm like sort of invested in them, like I know about their kids and their family. And we talked about like going on vacations together. I mean, it's become a whole thing.
Oh my gosh, that's so good.
It's been enormously helpful.
That's so good. I did not see you in Vegas. I just got back from Vegas as well. That's so fun.
Yeah.
There was something I wanted to ask you about. Oh, do you want to share the name of the SEO company? You don't have to, but would you want to share the name of the SEO company with everybody?
Yeah, I don't mind. I mean, actually, what's so funny is I found them on Google, which I thought, well, if I can find them on Google, they have great SEO. But they're called Client Expander, and they actually focus on interior designers and architects. So I knew they would be a great fit because they understand our business, and they do great work, and I can't recommend them enough.
Okay, so Client Expander, we'll look for them. One of the bullet points that you sent to us had to do with charging what you're worth from the beginning. How do you know what you're worth when you're just starting out? Did you base that on previous jobs that you held down, or the amount of money that you needed to make in order to support your family? How did you get to your number?
Yeah, that's exactly it. I knew, again, I said this earlier, I'm coming at this a little bit later, not later in life. I'm not like twilight years, but I wasn't 22 with no kids, no mortgage, no nothing. I had to make a living doing it. And so, yeah, I based it on sort of the minimum I needed to start out in order to maintain my lifestyle. And what was that going to take in order to continue, one, investing in the business, but then also still paying my bills. So, yeah, I just based it on what I still feel like my time is worth, regardless of experience. My time is valuable. So I just based it always on what I'd made previously in previous jobs, and it's just worked out for me.
When you meet other designers, have you had the experience where you've talked to them about what they're charging and you just scratch your head and say, how on earth do you make a living doing that?
Well, it's funny because I was talking about this group of designers that I'm on a text thread with, and we all charge very differently. 2 of us who we probably are the most similar in business, which you'll probably go crazy for, we charge flat rate. I've always only charged flat rate, but I do base it on my time, and I overestimate my time. So she does it a little bit differently, where she charges some sort of complicated solution of like a percentage of the budget versus time and some algorithm that I can't understand. But yeah, there are times I remember one of the girls we met in Vegas, poor thing, she was like struggling. Like she couldn't pay for her dinner. Like she had no money. And she constantly is like, can I help you with anything? I'm like, I don't really have anything for you. I feel really bad because I know you're talented. Just, it's okay to ask for it. It's okay. If they say no, they say no, which is hard. I know it's hard because I've been told no. I've been told I'm too expensive, but I know I'm not the most expensive, and I know I'm not the cheapest. So, and I'm okay right there in the middle.
Yeah, and you are too expensive for somebody, and that is okay because there's probably someone who could service that client. So our job is not to serve everybody. Like we just can't, right? You
Yeah.
got to pick a lane and stay in it. But it does break my heart when I meet designers who can't. Like I had the experience where we all going to Vegas for something, a group of designers, and we're like, let's stay at the Wynn. And there were a couple of them who were like, no, we're just gonna like stay at like, I don't know, Circus or
Yeah.
something. I'm like,
Oh God.
what? Like, oh my God, no, you're not.
I know.
And they've been
Well,
doing
and
it a long time. That was the other thing. These two in particular have been doing it over 25 years. So they're exhausted, they're burnt out, they're not making money. Which part of this is working for you? Like, except for
Right.
the social connections, none of it, right? Like none of it.
Right. Yeah, I know. It's really hard. And there have been times I've lost on jobs and like the client will come to me and say, well, I'm sorry, but your quote was double the next closest quote. And I thought, how are these people even doing this job for this amount of money? I mean, are
Right.
they just want the job and so they're quoting low, or is it because
Yes.
they're not, this is just how they charge? I don't know. But it always like makes me scratch my head. Like, how are they even making a living? And maybe they're just okay with making $40,000-$50,000 a year. Maybe, I don't know. And they could do still great work, just not make any money doing it. I don't know.
No, it's so funny. A lot of people think I don't like flat fees. I love flat fees. I just think sometimes people use a flat fee to hide and they make so little money. The majority of designers who use flat fees make so little money. It's bad for them, it's bad for the industry. And I think if you're just starting out, to go hourly so you learn how much time it takes to do a job. And then,
Yeah.
fine, switch to a
Yeah.
flat fee, but you have to charge a lot. And, yeah, you're not going to get every job. That's okay. Yeah.
Right.
All right. You also mentioned on your list of 5 things, and by the way, we're going to write these 5 things down and we'll share with you Sarah's big takeaways in the show notes at businessofdesign.com. But the last one had to do with always be learning. So do you pick something that you see as a weak spot and then you say, this year I'm going to tackle that? Or are you just curious by nature so you're constantly asking questions?
Well, actually, I'm sort of neither of those things. I'm just a control freak. And so I like to be able to know how to do everything myself. And if it all went away tomorrow, I want to be able to take care of myself. And so a big thing for me is I do one thing I do, and I have it set up in my calendar. I used to be once a week, but that was unrealistic. So now it's about once a month or once a quarter, where I take time out to learn something new. It could be anything. It could be taking better photography for just like Instagram on the fly when I don't have a professional photographer around. It could be learning, polishing up Photoshop skills. It could be any sort of thing that will help me do my day-to-day job. And it's something that I've seen a need in where I have hired out for it. And is there a way I can do it? It doesn't have to be to the same professional level, but can help me on a day-to-day basis when I don't have time to hire out for that person. And actually, it's something we just implemented on staff too. And our employees got really excited about it. And now we're setting up quarterly, almost like lunch and learns for them, where maybe it's floral design and how to put together a lovely arrangement, or just kind of learning different skills. It helps keep our brain fresh, and will help us in a photo shoot if we can put together a beautiful flower arrangement without having to hire out. So things that we can use practically too. And we like to try out a lot of different things.
I think that's an excellent plan to kind of think of quarterly, of putting some time on the calendar quarterly where you learn something new and something that can add to the work that you're doing. So I could definitely see floral arranging. I could see wine tasting.
I like that.
Right? In all seriousness, because a lot of my clients drink wine. And so to be able to speak with them in an educated manner about, wine and the proper glassware and that kind of thing, I can see where things like that could be helpful as well.
No, I was just going to say, and another caveat or piece of that is we've also taken to learning a lot more about local charities around us. One, how can we support them? But then also, this is going to come off really tacky, but where are the wealthiest people hanging out? They're at charity events. And so kind of learning about charities, but then also that goes back to the networking. It's like meeting this whole other group of people that I don't normally socialize with and I'm not around all the time. So I'm helping these charities out, but then I'm also meeting all new people and kind of just putting myself out there in that way.
Yeah, I completely understand that. That's okay to be focused, right? And especially like if you're leaving a paid gig for a new life as an interior design professional, you have no choice. You've got to bring home some customers. So it's okay to be
Yeah.
strategic about that. We don't have to be uncomfortable about that. I can't imagine a man apologizing for that, right?
No. No,
Absolutely cannot
absolutely
imagine
not.
that happening. No. Good for you. Okay, so advice for someone listening who's just starting out and maybe they didn't have the opportunity to go to business school. In fact, they probably didn't.
Coming from a business background, just even working in business, I worked in sales for 15 years. So I understand a lot about the thought process of a client, where I've seen younger designers who don't have that experience can't quite wrap their head around. And it's almost psychology, where it's almost like a dance with the client, like trying to say the right thing, do the right thing, be genuine to yourself. But I think that a lot of times designers don't know how to communicate with the client and put themselves in the client's shoes. And it's very much about the design and not the actual end product or the client or the business and how is it going to grow. And if you're working from home, maybe look at going into like a co-working space. At least surrounding yourself with other people who are running businesses, will help you pick up on things you didn't even realize you could do. And it goes back to what I said earlier. Going to market helped me tremendously. I thought it was going to be overwhelming and intimidating. I loved it. I picked up on the energy of it. And every time I go, I come back with like 10 million new ideas of ways we can grow the business. So just immersing yourself with other designers, I think will help a lot, especially in your region.
Absolutely. I mentioned that we were also at Las Vegas Market because Business of Design is hosting a conference at the January market in
nice.
2020. So that will be priced so that new designers, young designers, those who haven't quite broken through yet will be able to attend and get the benefit and create networking groups, et cetera. So we're excited about that. Couldn't agree more with all of your great advice. We like to end every episode with design intervention, a bit of life-changing advice, something you think everybody must do immediately.
Something everybody must do immediately. Well, obviously get a website, which sounds stupid, but there's a lot of people who don't have one. And invest in photography. That's a big one. I thought, I could just use my iPhone photos and edit them a little bit because I know a Photoshop now. Invest in photography. Again, hire out for that. And then also, for one thing I did very early on to sort of solidify my legitimacy in my marketplace is I focused on one social network and I spent a lot of time trying to grow it. And it was the bane of my existence for about a year, but it has grown and it has been great. And it has sort of put a foothold in my area, but then also in the design world as a whole. I picked Instagram because that was the one that I felt made the most sense for my business. It could be Facebook for you. It could be something else entirely. But I spent a lot of time and effort growing my Instagram just to validate a little bit about our business and who we were and again, raise that visibility.
And how can we find you on Instagram since you brought that up?
It's really easy. We're at Join the Band is our handle for every single social platform. So you can just search for Join the Band with an extra D on the end, Join the Band. And we're just, band design in Austin.
I love it. All right, everybody reach out and follow at Join the Band. 2 Ds. That's two Ds at the end there in Austin. Yeah. And I hope that I'll be hanging out with you at Market at some point. You're going to High Point in the spring?
I'm going to go to High Point in October.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm sure we'll be there as well. I've got the April market coming up next, though. So
I know. Craziness.
And I was supposed to be at South by Southwest this year, but I ended up I'll be in Australia instead. So that's how that worked out.
That'll be better.
Well, thank you so much for getting up so early this morning. I really appreciate it.
All right. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Bye.
Thank you for being a part of the Business of Design community. If you love what you hear on the podcast, take the next step by signing up at businessofdesign.com. As our thank you, you'll gain access to Business of Design's 15-step project management strategy, a free introductory course which includes 3 Business of Design systems you can implement for immediate results. And when you're ready for success, a Business of Design membership, monthly or annual, will dramatically improve your business and your life. What are you waiting for? Together we will achieve extraordinary results. Start today.